When it rains, it pours. Everton Football Club have been hit yet again by another points deduction. Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Welcome to another video. And today's video is going to centre around the big breaking news centering around Everton Football Club of the Premier League, who have today seemingly been found guilty of a second breach of the Premier League's profit and sustainability rulings. The second breach of the season, resulting in the Toffees being deducted a further 2 points, which is obviously taking their total up to 8 deducted points overall for the 2 breaches that Everton have seemingly been found guilty of so far this season. We're going to be talking about the second points deduction. We're going to be talking about the entirety of the story yet again in what is becoming a very bizarre and very wild story. But before we go any further, I would like to remind you to please like the video and also subscribe if you're new. Both things are always and very greatly appreciated. And of course, get involved in the comment section down below. Let me know your thoughts, your comments, opinions, predictions, feelings, whatever you want to call it, in regards to this major breaking news story in regards to Everton and another points deduction. But without further ado, let's get into the video. Let's talk about Everton, the points deduction, and everything else in between. So the news broke today that Everton were found guilty of a second breach of PSR. That, of course, are the guidelines of FFP that the Premier League have put out. And, okay, so on its surface, the points deduction is 2. It takes Everton down to 16th. They are 2 points clear of the drop zone. That win on Saturday, a big win at that against Burnley, has now been cut to just a point from what they gained from that weekend due to this points deduction. And obviously it now means Everton are still not completely safe from the drop zone. And of course, they are, like I say, 2 points clear of that relegation zone, with Luton and Forest in particular looking up at them, and of course with how Forest's situations panned out as well. Forest will be looking at that more interestingly because, of course, more recently they got deducted. They got a big points deduction very recently as well, which I'm sure we'll get onto a little later on as well. According to Paul Joyce, he says that Everton are going to appeal this, and allegedly, I think I remember reading elsewhere as well, that the Premier League may have an opportunity to appeal it as well. If they feel that the punishment of Everton's 2 points is a bit more lenient than what they were expecting, they can apparently appeal it as well. So again, as much as these stories have really taken charge of the Premier League and making it a completely wild season, a season like no other, we may still yet be no more. We may still not have the answers, is basically what I'm trying to say. We may still not be any clearer as to what is going to happen in regards to points deductions and things come the end of the season. Because obviously, here we are with, again, more appeals possibly to be put in. Everton are going to probably appeal it. We have no idea what is going to obviously take charge. The reason why Everton are seemingly going to appeal it is because they see it as potential double jeopardy. The double jeopardy being that allegedly they see it as being the same thing as the first charge that the Premier League are charging them for, or in a similar time frame, should I say, to what the Premier League are charging them for initially. They see it as being a bit unfair. They see it as being they're being penalised for the same thing twice. And also there is still dispute over the stadium costs. Where do they factor into proceedings? Where do they factor into the overall numbers side of things and the paperwork side of things that, of course, Everton have been hit with, so to speak? The Premier League have been saying these numbers don't add up. They're over what we expected. And Everton have basically gone, well, that's how much money we invested in the stadium. Where does that come into the guidelines of everything that we've been trying to say? So Again, I'm not a financial expert. There are probably other people that you can find elsewhere that will probably explain this in a better way than what I'm putting it, admittedly. But that is the basic gist of what Everton are saying and what the Premier League are saying, and so on and so forth. The Premier League statement today read, an independent commission has given an immediate 2-point deduction to Everton FC for a breach of the Premier League's profit and sustainability rules for the period ending season 2022 to 23. That year is obviously the overlapping situation that Everton feel is double jeopardy and they're being penalised twice for. Excuse me. Over a 3-day hearing last month, the Independent Commission heard evidence and arguments from the club in respect of a range of potential mitigating factors of its admitted breach of 16.6 million, including the impact of its 2 successive PSR charges. Having done so, the Commission determined the appropriate sanction to be a 2-point deduction taking effect immediately. The Independent Commission reaffirmed the principle that any breach of PSRs is significant and justifies requires a sporting sanction. Overall, of course, we know that Everton have been hit with a 10-point deduction earlier in the season. That was only a few months ago, reduced to just 6. And now they've been hit with a further 2-point deduction for a seemingly second charge, which takes their points deductions up to 8. They've been reduced to 8. They've been reduced down to 8 points overall deducted, and Everton are still fighting their case. I will remain consistent in everything that I've said in any of these videos that I've put out about PSR charges and everything. The victims are, of course, the fans in this kind of situation. They have no say in how a club is run. And overall, the people that were in power or the people that are in power are the ones that obviously have ran their clubs into the ground. And I include obviously Forest in that, who were hit with their own 4-point deduction not so long ago, which of course is being going through the stages of an appeal right now. The fans are the ones to get hurt the most. For rivals and things, it may seem as a bit of banter, but believe me, it won't be that way, will it? When or if your club are found to be doing the same thing. So in these kinds of situations, I always say to fans, keep together, keep calm, and keep level-headed about it. We can all banter and all have a bit of a joke here and there, but overall, of course, just remember that there are people involved here that are victims in this scenario, the fans. But that's where the main direction of your blame should go, is towards the people that were in power or the people that are in power. For Everton, they've been run so poorly, so poorly in obviously recent years that, you know, that's the aim of everyone's blame should be on those owners. It should be on the owners. It should be on, you know, the people in power at that club. It shouldn't be directed at the Premier League. The Premier League are doing their job. Okay, it may not be as clean, it may not be as tidy as what these cases should be dealt with, and obviously you've still got the lingering sort of shadows in the background, the likes of your Chelseas and Manchester Cities that were able to do this for a longer period of time and only just recently seemingly get caught. Obviously they'll have their day in court and they'll have their time to, of course, do this. And obviously the Premier League should take their blame for that, and they should take their blame for not sorting them kind of more major situations out sooner. But that doesn't necessarily mean that they should get the finger of blame pointed at them for this scenario. You're in this scenario because of your owners, because of the people that used to run you, your people that obviously still own you, or whatever the case may be, the people in power, the powers that be. That's who you should be pointing the majority of your blame at. I'm not saying the Premier League are blameless. I'm not saying the Premier League shouldn't have took a look into things much more sooner with other clubs. And I do think it is a little bit unfair that, you know, points deductions are happening during the season for the likes of Everton and Nottingham Forest, and not for a team like Manchester City, who is seemingly waiting till, I think, the end of the season or just before the beginning of next season to obviously get this hearing thing sorted and soon. I do find that a bit weird, and I do find that a little bit strange that that's obviously not happening, but that might just simply be because that is on a heavily much bigger scale that could obviously mean and result in those two teams in particular facing expulsion from the Premier League, which would be huge and monumental in itself if that is to be the case. With Everton, it does seem like they are smaller breaches, bad breaches, but still smaller ones, to the point where they're not facing expulsion, but they are facing punishment that is on a, albeit considered, a smaller scale when you compare the two kind of teams. Does that make it right? Absolutely not. Does it make it seem a little bit more imbalanced? Of course it does. But at the same time, like I say, City and Chelsea will get their days in court. They will get obviously their hearings done, and we wait and see what the jury produces on them too. For the here and now, Everton have been run so poorly that this is obviously what the case is going to present itself going forward. Look, will Everton get another points deduction? Will they get it reduced? Will they keep it the same? I don't know. I don't know what, like, this has been such an unprecedented season. This has been something monumental and weird throughout the course of this season. And I'm not just talking about stuff on the pitch. We can look at things like referee standards and VAR and things, and we can look at that as having a massive effect on the Premier League. But we can also look at things off the pitch like this that have had a massive effect as well. Everton going from a 10-point deduction to a 6-point deduction to a further 2-point deduction, making their points deduction 8 in total across 2 breaches, is monumental. Forest to have a 4-point deduction is huge. They are obviously teams that are in the bottom fighting for their lives right now, fighting to survive relegation. Massive for those two teams. Just to try and fight that, massive for them, and obviously the mistakes of their club in the past. But then you also think of the teams that are down there fighting that haven't broken those rules. The likes of Sheffield United, the likes of Luton Town, for example, the likes of Burnley, that haven't, as of the time of recording, of course, not seemingly broken those rules, but are obviously falling into like into that kind of role of, well, we've not broken them rules, but we're still fighting relegation, and obviously they may go and survive because they broke them kinds of rules. It's a very weird and very layered and convoluted story that I don't think will ever get a clean result in, to be honest with you. We just have to kind of cut it off here, and to obviously go again and to refresh and to rethink our approach to PSR and FFP and all that kind of stuff, which I think is obviously going to happen going forward in light of these two cases and obviously the whole Manchester City case, which is looming as a whole. So there is obviously, like I say, a lot to consider when going about this kind of stuff. There is obviously a lot to think about with this kind of thing, and I'm hoping that if there is something to come about from these kinds of stories, it is that we get a better way that we're running these kinds of things on the side of football. We obviously, as fans, we should be mainly focused on things that happen on the pitch, transfers, that comes into play as well. The financial aspects, we should trust in our ownerships of any and all clubs. But obviously with these kinds of things happening, that is no longer the case. As for Everton, look, the bottom line on this is I do think they're being made a bit of an example of, but at the same time they are not blameless. They are to blame. Not the fans, not the players, not anyone else, but the people in power or the people that were in power. It's unfortunate, it's horrible for the fans, but the fans shouldn't be turning their attention and blame towards the Premier League. The Premier League is to blame for certain aspects of this and for certain aspects of this to escalate to the point that it did. But overall, it's not the Premier League's fault that Everton have been run so poorly in recent years that they have breached FFP for not just one, but seemingly two breaches of those particular rules. Look, if Everton appeal this and it does get found out that it is an overlapping thing, then fair play. But at the same time, there does seem to be enough. If the Premier League are to run their organisation as a whole, they can't afford any slip-ups. And they must have enough evidence to suggest that that is to be the case and that it's not an overlapping thing, it is a genuine breach. If obviously it's found out to not be, again, I think more questions have to be asked of the Premier League. If things aren't found out about Chelsea, if things aren't found out about Manchester City, there needs to be serious questions asked of the Premier League and whether or not they can actually run their own organisation. If not, things need to change. But either way, yeah, a bad day for Everton without even kicking a ball, as they are reduced a further 2 points for a seemingly second breach of the Premier League's FFP and PSR sustainability rulings. I just realised I said PSR sustainability rulings. PSRs. People just call them PSRs. Anyway, those are just the thoughts, comments, opinions, predictions, feelings, whatever you want to call it, of this guy. I want to know what you guys think. What do you make of Everton, FFP, PSR, and all of that stuff that has today seen the big breaking news story be that the Toffees have been further deducted 2 more points for a seemingly second breach of PSR. Let me know your thoughts, comments, opinions, predictions, feelings, whatever you want to call it, down below in the comment section. I'm sure it will be all made for interesting and great reading, I'm sure. Otherwise, hit that like button on the way. If you enjoyed the video, subscribe if you're new and want to see more content like this. Both things always are greatly appreciated. And as always, thank you all so much for watching and listening. I've been Fletch. This has been another Fletch Talks video, and I'll see you speak to you all again soon in another video or live stream or whatever it may be. Cheers, guys. Thanks everyone for watching. Take care. Enjoy the rest of your day. Speak to you all again very, very soon.